You want to go the New Jack route now, or what?
Sure.
You know, we are fascinated with when New Jack comes in. Now, we haven't gotten anywhere near that, obviously, at this point, because we're only at the beginning of '93. But Doc and I have definitely watched.
But
it
still,
and,
you got to take advantage of this while you can. We'll hop all over the place.
Well,
right.
New Jack seems focused, a lot more focused than what we would see up north in just a couple of years. He is a force of nature.
Yeah.
It is tense when he delivers a promo on television. He looks like he's going to jump out through the TV and start dating all the white women. and it's just it is a fantastic performance. So we've heard stories from Tracy Smothers, we've heard stories from Bobby Blaze, we've heard stories about how real it was in some of these communities when New Jack and the Gangstas came in. So here's my question. As a guy, we love heat and lots of it.
Yes.
Did you ever consider putting Sonny with New Jack, and what would have happened if you'd have done that?
No, I didn't, and it actually, there's no way in the world that would have worked. Actually, I tried to originally book Tony Atlas. I would put Sonny with Tony Atlas. Because, but Tony found out about it, or Tony's wife found out about it, and he had a dalliance before in WCW, so she wouldn't he sent me my plane ticket back, the TV, the day he was supposed to start. But no, not with New Jack, and see, that's the thing, and to be honest, and I blame Paul. By the time that New Jack got to ECW, and all of a sudden there's no restrictions, and he can outdo everybody, wants to outdo everybody, will outdo everybody, wants to be more dangerous, more fucked up, more psychotic, probably in and out of the ring than everybody else that was there. I think it went too far, and Jack probably damaged himself physically doing all that shit, and I'm sure he exacerbated any bad habits he might have had. But the reason why I thought it would work in Knoxville, and it did to some extent in the big towns, but the spot shows, as I'll tell you in a minute, not so much. He just was an incredible fucking performer, as verbally, and as you said, with the intensity and the look. Yeah. They couldn't work worse shit. Him or Mustafa, neither one. Mustafa looked great and never say anything, but looked like the big jacked up muscle-headed, nut. But New Jack was as good a promo in whatever. There was no New Jack genre. He would have been Jerry Lawler in the Jerry Lawler genre. He would have been the equivalent promo in the New Jack genre. He would, whatever the fuck he was the best, and you believed it. And I wanted that. I saw him working for Sammy Kent in Georgia when we did those Marietta shows. And the New Jack Syndicate, and he'd come out with a couple of stooges and do his thing, and the matches were the shits. But I knew we'd get people to fucking work with him, but nobody could talk like that. And with Rodney King in L.A. and fucking OJ and all that other stuff, I said, well, we might as well try it, because how the fuck you get it supposed to get any heat anymore? And I was losing the bodies, right, to the WWE. Mm-hmm. So... And then that's why I finally put D'Lo Brown with him, because at least one guy on the team could work and was sane. Well, and Mustafa was sane. He's a nice guy. But just one guy on the team could work, and he could drop the fall and everything. But when they first brought the posses, and they were just friends of New Jack's, and they'd ride up in that fucking Corvette he had and come out with their hands in the goddamn paper bags and the fucking bandanas over their faces. And just anything that I could do to make it more legitimate. And that's why everybody said, well, how could you book him to say those things? You didn't book people to say shit back in those days. You booked people that said shit. I told New Jack, I said, go out and piss the white people off and get over as a fucking heel. I can't tell New Jack. What was I going to come up with the line, you silenced Medgar Evers, you silenced Malcolm X, and now I'm next. And when he said the NAACP can kiss my black ass, I did not tell him to say, but I loved it. But he was, God, it was, the promos were, so the point is, in the big towns, they got some heat. And when I could, put against the rock and roll in Knoxville and Christmas or whatever, and especially when the bodies came back, we had a couple of nice houses in Knoxville with them and us as baby faces against them. And John City, a couple of good ones. And of course, we had The Undertaker in Pikeville, I guess, so that was going to sell out regardless. But the spot shows, it didn't fly in the right way because that's how we lost Paintsville. My friend Ken Cantrell was on the volunteer fire department. He's the biggest wrestling fan in the world, tape collector, et cetera, for years. He still is involved in wrestling, promotes over in Eastern Kentucky. Bluegrass Championship Wrestling, folks. They were our sponsors, and we would draw, 5, 6, 7, 800 people when we were outside at the Apple Festival with the Big Apple Grapple. In Paintsville, Kentucky, this little town, like 4 times a year. But when the volunteer fire department had to be security to walk the Gangstas back and forth to the ring, and all of their friends and neighbors called them up and asked them why they were bodyguarding them Negroes, shall we say, all of a sudden they didn't want to have wrestling anymore. So the small towns, they didn't get the heat like we want to come see that you get the fuck beat out of you. They got the heat like we don't want to be in the building. And then also, to be honest, every time New Jack would stir him up too much, he'd have some kind of heart palpitations, call an EMT. They'd be putting the cuff on him, and in all the chaos and everything, somehow he'd hop in the car and slide out. But that was the thing. He was an incredible performer, but I think he jumped the shark by just being so nuts and having to be so nuts to be New Jack that nobody would touch him because Vince wasn't ever going to fucking touch that. And when I tried to get them booked, they'd been there for a year and I had nothing else, right? We got to change shit up and I'm losing my spot shows. So I called Randy Hales. He's like, fuck, I ain't going to take that shit in Memphis. And of course, New York was not interested. So that's when I actually had called Paul and said, hey, I got these guys. They're perfect for you. I didn't know he was engineering to get them away from me behind my back and 2 weeks before their scheduled finish date, which was what led to much of the unpleasantness, as the British used to call World War II.
Wow. Yeah, New Jack was intense. We've been talking about some of the promos lately on the Thursday show, the Booking the Territory flagship show that we do, and where we kind of talk about a bunch of things, including the NWA, but we've talked about advanced things there on Smoky Mountain, and New Jack's first promo where he says, good job, OJ, that's 2 less we have to worry about. You just like, Jim,
we popped the Chiron up and said the views of right. The Gangstas are not necessarily those of Smoky Mountain Wrestling or this station.
Yeah. I mean, Jim, I'm 41 years old. Doc's a little older than me, not much, and that's probably one of the most intense promos I've seen in any form of wrestling anywhere. When he says that, I mean, it's just insane. But if we'd have had local TV let me say this 2 different ways now. If we'd have had broadcast television in a big market and with a guy like that, like in Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, one thing would have happened. We'd either sold out major arenas or gotten kicked off television before we had the chance to run the shows. Well, one or the other.